Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to ACCUREX o'clock. It's yet another Wednesday. We have our webinar. Uh, it's going to take place from 11 a.m. to 12:30. And I think as the webinar continues, people will be joining. My name is Christian Okemwa from ACCUREX. Uh, I'll be moderating the webinar. ACCUREX is a HR consultancy. We are located at Ends Business Park, Mombasa Road, Block A, second floor. We offer a variety of services. Some of them is HR consulting. We also do coaching and mentoring, team building. We have recruitment also, payroll management. We also do outsourcing, CV writing, letters, and LinkedIn profile. We also offer our product, which is called People HRIS. It is a basically it is the automated side of HR, where we minimize on the paperwork and effort required by any company or client or any human resource professional or practitioner, whereby all the basic HR. Is someone? Just a moment. Sorry for that. Yeah, it's okay. So yeah, basically all the HR functions are automated and available at a glance. So we also have our website where we display what we do. You can visit it www.accurex.co.ke. We also post jobs for those who are job seekers, different jobs. You can pass by our website to check it out. Check out the variety of jobs we posted there and apply. So now back to the main agenda of the day, which is the webinar. Welcoming the people who are joining. Our webinar for today is titled From Manager to Mentor: Coaching, Delegation, and Empowering for Growing Leaders. Basically, how to move from just being a manager to a mentor, whereby you offer more than just direct, uh, let's say, it's like offering direction basically to your workforce or to your team that you're managing. And today's facilitator will be Jaskiran. I believe she's in the meeting. I'll now hand over to her. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ACCUREX O'Clock, and I will be your facilitator today. My name is Jaskiran Korsira, and I am an industrial and organizational psychologist. I train companies, individuals, groups on various aspects of leadership. Training on different things, especially to do with emotional intelligence as well. So, today our topic is very interesting. We are talking about coaching, we are talking about leadership, and it's important for us to understand what the difference is and why it works or why it doesn't work in our settings right now, and especially with changing times right now, with new generations coming into the workforce. We are heavily flooded with Gen Zs in the workforce, sorry. So how is it that we can get on board together and be effective at our jobs? So before I start, I want us to, maybe just by the show of hands, or you can put in the chat box, at what position of leadership are you in the company that you work for or the company that you run? At what leadership position are you? We can just quickly write that in the chat box to start with. This will give me a good idea of the different the different leaders that we have that we're working with together? HR, okay, we have quite a few HRs. I'll just put that here. What level of management are you at in your organization? Okay. Okay. So, by the show of hands, have you ever had to delegate your job to someone? Delegate a task, a role, a responsibility to someone? Patel says yes. Felix says yes. Monaisha says yes. Okay, so we have had to delegate. And how many of us have found our delegation successful? You can do a thumbs down or a thumbs up. Okay. So our delegations have been successful. Has anyone ever found any challenges with their delegation? Okay. All right. So if I could just invite someone to come up and talk about what challenge they have faced so far with delegation, just to have uh just to have an idea. Would anyone like to share what they've gone through, like a bad experience that they've gone through with delegation, and why they would rather probably do something themselves? Would someone like to share with us? Guys, we're trying to make this interactive as possible. So I would really appreciate if we had a lively training session. Would Patel like to share something?
I think people are shy.
People are
People are
shy.
shy.
Okay.
Okay.
People are
People
shy.
are
Would
shy.
Robert
Would
like to
Robert
say
like to say
something?
something?
Okay. So, since we are not going to mention anything, I am going to take the lead and we shall move into the presentation. Once we get on with it, feel free to chip in, okay? So the reason that we are doing this is in yes, Neptune has something to say.
Okay, good morning, team. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I think I've had a challenge with the delegation. Yes, it's something good to do, but
Mm,
sometimes I don't know if it is an aspect of attitude issues. Yes, of course, you can give instructions, and
mm,
from your point of understanding, you've given even the expectations of what is supposed to be achieved, but
mm,
whoever you're delegating to at some point, even if they face a challenge, they don't
mm,
ask you in any way.
right.
So from your point of view, you know that you've given the expectations and maybe this
Mm,
is what we are supposed to, the end result. But
mm,
at some point when you check the work and you find that something went wrong, so when you
oh,
ask them, why didn't you maybe ask at a certain point before you even concluded or you even completed the work, they'll tell
mm,
you, I thought it's supposed to be done this way. So you find
all
that
right.
your expectation hasn't really been met as much as you thought when you're giving the instructions. You had
Mm,
given the right instructions, you had properly communicated. So
mm,
probably that aspect of communication and also follow up before completion of the task instead of wasting a lot of
mm,
time to complete something that maybe has been done wrongly. Thank you.
yes. Oh, thank you very much, Neptune, for sharing your experience. I think a lot of people will probably even second your experience and your barriers to delegation. And I think the challenges that I've seen in your particular case study is something that we want to address today. Okay. And the issue that you have mentioned is the fact that there is no open communication, and that there are assumptions, and assumptions come from lack of clear communication. So that is a good start for us for our training. We can use that as a baseline, as an example for us to now work on how to go about this scenario. Now, before we go and dive right into delegation, I want us to understand the key things that we're going to look at today in our training. And the first one is a different paradigm of what it is to be a leader. Do you manage or do you coach? Okay, that's what we want to understand. And we want to understand then how is it that delegation requires more of coaching than managing for it to be more effective. So you can see here that there is a link between delegation and coaching. So we want to see how exactly we can up our skills to be better at that. And then we will also learn how to give feedback in the right levels to the right people in the right way, different feedback ways for different tasks that we do and for different levels of expertise, so that it is easy for us who are giving the task, and for the person who has been given the task to appreciate the communication, so that your tasks are done on time. Okay, now, before I begin, this is something very key that we want to understand, is that teams are more engaged, they perform better, and they stay in your company when they feel like they are growing. Those who feel managed become compliant but will never be committed to your company. And the decision really boils down to management versus coaching, especially now with remember I said that we are now get experiencing a flood of Gen Zs into the workforce. These are people that love their autonomy. They love to do things independently. They seek certainty. They look for all opportunities to know exactly what needs to be done. They need clarification on expectations. But then again, they do not like uncertainty. Okay. So, how is it that we are going to engage these teams more? How is it that we can make them feel valued in companies? And how is it that we can understand these generational differences as well, but then bring them together and close the gap? And that all boils down to leadership, understanding our individual differences so that we can work together as teams rather than as creating that power distance between us. So, coaching versus managing. Would anyone believe that in their role they do better as, okay, would anyone believe that they are good at managing in their roles, in your leadership role? Do you think you're a good manager, a good HR official, a good HR assistant? By a show of hands or thumbs up. Do you think you are a good manager? Do you think you delegate well? Do you think you're able to get work done well? Okay, okay. I'm seeing a few thumbs up. All right. Now, if you're a good manager, a good I would want you to just think of in your head what it entails to be a manager. We can share this out loud. What does it entail to be a good manager? You could raise your hand or you could just unmute yourself and share with us. There are no wrong answers. I'm sure there is something that works for everyone, and that has brought them to that position. So maybe you can share with us a little bit of what works for you as a manager. What makes you a manager?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Duke.
Hi.
Yes, tell
Yes.
us.
Yes. Actually, one of the skills to be a good manager is the listening skills on
Mm-hmm.
how you solve conflict between now these Gen Zs with the clients. Yeah. So
Yeah.
whenever there's a conflict between a customer and also a sales agent,
Mm,
therefore, when you listen on both sides, you come with a judgment. So listening skills is one of them. And then also the way you handle them. You don't have to be strict. You have to be friendly with your junior so that they can understand you better. Thank you.
mm, mm.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Someone else had their hand up.
Okay, this is Joram.
Hi, Joram.
Thank you. So for me, I think what would make an ideal manager is being in possession of the soft skills. These are the non-technical traits, maybe like empathy, emotional intelligence.
Mm, mm,
These are what will transform a technical expert into a more effective people-centric manager.
mm,
Therefore, by mastering these important soft skills, human-centric abilities will help in resolving conflict, boost team retention, and also build a positive, productive workplace culture.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Duke still has something to say? Or is your hand still up? Okay. So, from what we have seen, we are, yes, would you like to share? This is Keith.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Okay, to me, just or rather on top of the skills that have been listed, I think
Mm-hmm.
other three more skills that try to portray a good manager is a time management skill as well, prioritizing
Mm-hmm.
tasks, meeting deadlines, and helping the team stay organized. We have
Yeah.
accountability, per
Yes.
se, taking responsibilities for decisions and encouraging ownership within the team.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one
Mm-hmm.
is innovation and creativity, encouraging new ideas and better ways to
Okay.
improve processes, yeah, and outcomes within a team.
Right. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. So, these are some of the qualities we see in good managers, right? We want to see task centered approaches where we are looking at management, we're looking at organization, we want to drive innovation so that we can meet the company's goals, stay in line with strategic management, be a good listener to the team, have empathy. Someone mentioned soft skills, be good at resolving conflicts with, with the Gen Zs. So these are what we are talking about as a manager. Now, I want us to see from this slide where we fall currently, okay? We're talking of managing on the right, and we're talking of managing as being work centric. Everything that everyone has mentioned here more or less falls in the category of the task being the center of our focus, because the work is what is our top priority, right? So people here are used as a resource, okay, to complete tasks and achieve deliverables. And when that happens, your focus is more on making sure that work is done. Work keeps moving. There is process, there's workflow happening, and everything has to do with the outputs. So, in that case, when you have to manage somebody, you're managing people as a resource, just like any other resource that you have in the company, whether that's logistics, whether that's paper, whether that's whatever it is. Okay. So, people become a resource. And under management, you define what needs to happen, You define when it needs to happen, how it should happen, and everything is focused on the work itself. You monitor progress, you're correcting deviation, you're solving problems when they arise, you are evaluating outputs against standards that are set by the company, and you hold people accountable for their results. So in essence, all of you that have shared your qualities are actually superb managers, okay? But when you think about it, all we are doing here is making sure work is done. And you would ideally think that when you come to work, work needs to be done and work should be your top priority. But then we also find another perspective or another view that we spend almost more than half our life working, right? From 8 to 6, from 9 to 5, whatever our jobs are, whatever our working hours are, we spend most of our time at work, and we want to achieve some sense of development, some sense of purpose, some sense of growth, okay, from a person's point of view. And so when you come in any organization, when you're working with people, they want to develop, they want to grow, they want to do better for themselves. And so that is where the concept of coaching comes from. Because when I look from the perspective of an employee, when I enter the organization, I want my development, my career path I want to see how I can improve it, how I can up my skills, my talents. But then here I am with managers who require me to just do certain tasks. And yes, I might learn a few things along the way about how to do certain things, but then there might be a misshift or a mismatch or a misalignment in the way things are done, because their sole purpose is to make sure that work is done, and my purpose in the organization is to achieve growth. That's where coaching comes in. And the importance of coaching is to provide a balance between work centricness and people centricism. Okay. We want to use work, that is the fundamental goal of the organization, to get those tasks done, projects out, but use that as a source of developing people's capabilities, to develop their thinking processes, to develop their skills and talents. Okay. So coaching essentially is all about people centricism. When you're giving feedback, you're not always giving them answers. You want to ask before you give those answers. You want to understand what their logic is, so that you can look at what the breaks in their thinking process is, so that you can develop that. Okay, so it's a different way of leadership in organizations. And so coaching helps you to surface your own thinking as an employee, also as a manager, because you want to understand, you want to build the cognitive processes that are involved in understanding how to do that work. You're literally helping the person develop at a deeper level than just to get them do tasks. Okay. And then it also helps them develop their own judgment. And essentially, coaching is the best way for us to transfer our capabilities, not just complete the task. Okay. So by a show of hands, after reading the differences, does anyone fall under the category of a coach? It can be tricky because it requires a lot of effort. Does anyone fall under the category of coaching? Somewhere, somehow, not fully, maybe. You see yourself doing some coaching here and there with your subordinates, with your groups. Neptune says yes. Okay. All right. So in a nutshell, coaching is more people-centric. You want to develop the capacity of people, and managing is more work-centric. And it's easier for us to manage because it's efficient, right? It's all about creating efficient processes where you just get work done and that's it. But then there comes a point where you realize that people in my company are not learning. No matter how much I try to tell them, they're making the same mistakes, they're doing the same things, they're just not learning. And that is where this problem is arising. let me just use my laser here. Transferring capability. We are not able to transfer capability because we are focused on getting them to do the work. So this is where you can now start to use coaching approaches. And one way to use coaching approaches is in delegation. Yes, we might have challenges when we are giving our work out to people to do it, and we're going to see exactly how we can do that. But then also, how do we provide feedback that helps us grow? Remember, people are like systems. There is output. Input is what you're giving them to do, you're clarifying your expectations, and then they do the work and deliver. That's an output. But then they also need feedback to know what they are doing wrong and how to do it better. The kind of feedback we give them is essential in helping them grow. And the kind of feedback that you would give as a manager is completely different from the kind of feedback that you would give them as a coach. So those are the things that we want to look at. Now, when we talk of delegation, delegation is not handing out stuff from your plate for somebody else to take care of it because you have a workload to do, right? It is not task dumping. It is literally an opportunity to develop someone. It is a process for you to like work in collaboration with your team members to make sure that they know how to do those things so that tomorrow you can delegate to them without having to worry about it. Okay, so it's not task dumping. And yes, it requires extra effort, and I know managers are usually overwhelmed, HRs are usually overwhelmed, but for you to commit to be a good coach, you must create the time, the culture, the innate want to really want to develop your team, your team, so that you can delegate better and then everyone can develop together. So delegation is not about dumping your tasks on somebody. It is leadership development in real time. Okay. Have we ever wondered, who should I delegate to? Like, who is capable in my team to do this work? And then you realize, you know what, it's better if I just do it myself, because at this rate, I'm not going to find the right person to give the work to, and I don't know how I'm going to clarify these expectations to them, and I still have a lot on my back, on my plate to do, but I still have to just do this myself because I can't target the right people. Has someone ever felt that when they're making the decision to delegate? Have you ever felt it difficult to make a decision on who should I give this work to? Okay. ACCUREX, we ourselves are saying yes. Okay. We are transparent here. Robert is saying yes as well. Duke has something to say.
Yes, in terms of, when you're a manager, there's softwares that you learn. So whenever you delegate to juniors, it takes time for them to adapt to also learning the skills. So it takes a long time. Yeah, so sometimes that has felt difficult because at your level, there's something you're doing and you're using some softwares and you're using some passwords. Yeah, it's a difficult decision to make.
Oh, like giving out the passwords is a no-go zone because they can be misused as well, right?
Yeah, because it's work, Yes.
Okay, so that's one thing to consider, using softwares and then them having to learn, and then your authority and the responsibility that comes with your authority. Okay, so let's see how we can, on a surface level or in a nutshell, how we can delegate, who to delegate to and what to delegate to. For those of you that are new in management roles or that are rising in your leadership roles, this is an important thing to consider. Some important points to consider is that things that are related to the core business strategy, that puts you in a prime position for only you to do the job. That is something that you can't delegate. Okay, something that involves uh, relational interaction, say for example with stakeholders. If you're the face of the company and you are in charge of client relations, you cannot delegate something like client relations just because you're held somewhere else, right? Because that affects the reputation of the company, and it affects how you it affects your outlook. It affects the relationship between the client and you, and that is a break or make decision also for whether they would come to you or not. So those are things that you keep to yourself. But then things that are a little bit simpler, things that have process, things that have repeatability in the company, things that have a certain way of being done, that there's a clarified process to do smaller things, those things can be given out. Why? Because there is a checklist against which your subordinates can take on those tasks, right? So we can delegate those tasks. We can give them off with clear instructions and whatnot. And then you have tasks that have learning opportunities. You see a junior that is willing to learn, they're excited, they like challenges, and there is something that's on your plate that you could give this person. Yes, they might need some support and they might need some guidance and feedback, but it is something that would be worth for them to learn. Okay. So that is also something that you can consider in giving out to your juniors, something that creates a learning opportunity for others. And then something that has a high stake. If you have an expert on your team who knows exactly what to do, so that's like that is something you can give to them, right? It's a high stake work, but you have experts on your team that can do those things, but you still keep this final sign off to yourself. You don't just let them do it and give it ahead. So those are some of the things that you can consider when you are delegating tasks. Okay. Now, these days that are hungry for work, because I don't know why, because but um it's hard to find people that have really good work ethic. But if you have those people on your team, make good use of them, because those are the people that are looking for opportunities to grow. They want opportunities for work, and they find genuine fulfillment in their work, so use them. Depending on the task, whether it's a low level, high level task, you can also give people that are beginners something that's process driven, like I said initially. You can give them to beginners. You can give developing employees something that's a little bit more challenging, someone that has stayed with you for 1-2 years, experienced performers or experts. Now, these hard tasks that nobody else can crack the code on, you can give experts to do it. It goes without saying. But or at every level, there will be something on your plate that you could give to any one of these people. And that, yes, also takes it off your plate, but it also provides them a chance to learn and grow. Okay, so look at those things. What's on your plate? What needs to get done? Don't look at what I have to do. Because if you look at what I have to do every morning, you will see that everything needs to be done, and there's so much to be done, and you're just one human in 8 hours, right? So look at what needs to be done, what tasks have to be done, and then try and spot people. Try to begin to spot people, whether it's at beginner level or expert level or experienced performers, and see what they can take on, and then now coach them. Because now it's not just for the work to be done, but you're also providing them opportunities to learn. All right. Now, how do you delegate? Now that you have identified the person, you've identified what needs to be done, how do you delegate? You can use this simple 4C loop. It's easier said than done, of course, but then it gives you clarity on how to go about things if you're delegating for the first time, for example. Okay. Number one is please, please, and please clarify. Give details. Give as many details as you can about what needs to be done. Sometimes our juniors might be slow at understanding. you might feel like you have communicated, but you have not checked whether that communication has landed for them. Okay, and those are two very different things. For you to communicate and for them to understand whether they have, whether whether what you have said has gone to them, that is an important part. Okay, so clarify what the deliverables are. What is our intended outcomes of this presentation that we are making? Okay, is it going to the senior management? Who's going to look at it? What decisions will be made off of this presentation? That is an important part as well. So what are the guardrails, your parameters? What standards are set? Is there a certain format that we have presentations set in this company? Is there a certain font that we use? Is there a certain, all those things? They might sound like too much information when you're delegating, but you would rather over communicate than under communicate. So make sure you give as much information as possible. Now, number 2, which is very important, is check in. Check in at 25% of completion. Don't wait for the end, and don't wait for them to come to you. And I think this is where one of our members was saying they had a problem, right? Don't assume silence is progress, because sometimes in companies what happens is that because of the power distance that we experience, especially in hierarchical companies, we feel like maybe bringing out a point or like communicating our difficulties or challenges might be difficult. Okay, it might be punitive or it might have consequences. So our communication gaps become wider. And so I'd rather just let it pass and suffer in silence and do to the best of my uwezo, and then wait till the end and be told that this is a substandard project that I have delivered, right? So if the other person has not come to you, please go to the other person and check in at the earliest. We don't want repeat jobs. It wastes resources, it wastes time, and it causes a lot of demoralization for someone that was entrusted with the job. So as a coach, take initiative, okay, to go and check, make timely corrections, make sure they understand the direction in which they're going. In educational psychology, there is a concept of visible learning. In that, clarify what the goal is and then move backwards. This is what needs to be achieved. This is how you're supposed to achieve it, and we have to work towards that goal. So the same with management. You must make sure, even while they're working, we still go and check on their work and look for timely corrections so that they are in alignment with the goal. Okay, so please, 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 delegation does not mean that if I have given the work to someone, it's completely off my plate. It still requires your input, it requires your support, it requires your attention. Please give it to them so they can develop. And also what happens is, when you give that feedback right at that moment, when I have made a mistake and you have just caught me making that mistake, fixing that thing in real time is better ingrained in the brain, because I have learned at that moment. I have been told what the solution is at that moment. I have identified the problem at that moment, rather than waiting till the end. Okay, so check-ins, regular check-ins are a good way to ensure that your work is done properly. Number 3, coach. Okay, focus on why it matters. Why is this task important? Why is it important for you to create this presentation for the board? What responsibility is there on your shoulders? Number 1, you communicate to that person that they have been entrusted, right? And so they are empowered to do that task. So you have to also provide the context in which they are doing that, so that they understand the holisticness of what they're doing. So if I'm creating this for the board, I know who my stakeholders are, who is going to look at this presentation, why it needs to be presented properly. So I will take care of the quality myself when I know it's going to the higher ups, right? So coach on what is important. And then lastly, Because someone has done your work, please celebrate them. Celebrate them as much as you can because they have helped you. Sometimes, as managers, what I have realized is that number one, we don't delegate because we feel like someone will take our position or they'll outsmart us or outdo us. And then we don't, and if we do get the work done from them, we don't celebrate them because we want to put our name on it. Please celebrate your people if you want them to continue doing that work for you. If you want them to continue supporting your leadership, developing you, it's a two-way street. Leadership is a two-way street. The more you give, the more you celebrate, the more you will receive their support in return as well, especially now with the generations that are coming into the workforce. They seek validation, they seek to know that this work was done by me, and it's not because they want to flaunt, they want to be seen. Just with any other person, we want to feel like our work has been valued and people understand that we've done it and that we have been able to support this organization in a positive way. So please celebrate your people. I hope we're good till there. Does anyone have any questions? Or you can drop a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or we should have one for this. Yeah, so okay, all right, I'm glad. Yes, Joram's hand is up.
Okay. In relation to now delegation and coaching, how should one be able to identify as a manager on skill, capability gaps in order so that we can give the right delegation to the right person, because at the same time you can delegate something hard a more performing who is not much skilled on that. So would you advise the learning development coaching aspects to supersede delegation, to appear before delegation? It needs to be first empower the staff before even delegation, in order for them to understand the expectations on deliverables, just like their own KPIs, so that they can there is that ownership for the responsibility and accountability.
So your question is how to identify the right person for the task, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as a manager, obviously you know everyone's strengths and weaknesses, or I would like to assume that, right? Or that should be your starting point for you in your team, in your core team that you are managing. Who are the people that have their strengths? Who are the people that have their strengths that you can use in that? Okay. And then also see how much is on their plate. Sometimes when we have really smart people or experts, right? Sometimes we even end up giving them the most mundane things to do. Why? Because we know they'll do it, right? But that puts a lot of workload on them as an expert. I don't know if you've ever experienced that in your teams, that the people that do the ones that are the most diligent end up doing a lot of work, and the ones that are so or not doing so much work, they end up just freeloading and free riding with the rest of them. Okay, and these are extra tasks, remember, on top of their responsibilities. So number one, you have to consider also people's workloads, but then you also have to consider that particular task that you are setting out for them that needs to be done. Who is the right fit in terms of pre-existing, like you said, KPIs, right? KSIs rather, KSAs, skills, knowledge, and attitudes. Who has the current skills, knowledge, and attitude for that? And the best fit would be someone that has at least a little bit of the skills and the technical knowledge. Okay, and then that is something you develop on. Another important thing to also understand is that you have to make it feel like it is something they are willing to do. Remember, autonomy is everything. If I dump it on someone that has a lot of work to do, they are not going to agree to do it, okay, even if they have all the criteria that is needed to do the work. So you want to see what is in it for them when you're approaching them to do for them to do the task. How do you portray it to them that there is something important in it for them, whether it's a learning opportunity, a growth, how that affects their or improves their like career, because they can attach it and say that I did this and this and this under so and so's leadership, okay. How does it benefit them? You have to show what's in it for them. And so those are certain criteria you can use to decide what fits for them. All right, I hope that answers your question. Okay. Still on how to coach as how to delegate as a coach, we are looking at communication as being very key. I will stress this point until it loses its elasticity, because our assumptions are the main reasons communication breaks down and we have a lot of errors in our work. We assume someone knows just because we know. Okay, we assume the other person has understood just because we have communicated. The truth is, assumptions are the biggest barrier to understanding, to information itself. So, personally, what I like to do is if I have given an instruction to someone, I ask them to repeat it to me. Okay, so I can see the gaps in what they have understood. If I tell them we have to make a presentation of or we have to do a training and we have to do this and this in that training, I want them to repeat to me everything I have said as a tape recorder, simply because it unleashes the way they have understood what you have asked from them. Okay, and so that is one way of making sure that information has landed. So you clarify, not like this, like this is why we are doing it. So clarify to them. Assume they don't know. Please, if you want to make any assumption, the assumption is that the other person does not know. So talk to them like they don't know. And again, over communication is better than under communication. Give them all the information they need. If it needs to be written down, write it down for them, or they can take notes while you're speaking. Okay, make sure communication is clear and make it open. They can come to you, they can trust you. Whenever they have an issue, they should not be made to look like they're foolish, or they should not be made to look like they don't know what they're doing. No judgment, just come and ask me if there's any issue. So keep communication channels open. Lastly, match your leadership style to the person. If you're giving work to an expert, do not direct them on every single small thing to do. Those people know what they're doing. Just provide them with your sign-offs, provide them with the resources, provide them with the approvals that they need to get the work done. But if you're looking at someone who is a complete beginner, do the complete opposite. Provide direction and make sure you're available for them. The in-betweens, for someone like who's a developing employee, someone who's 1 or 2 years with you, who knows what the standards are, give them constant feedback, give them the support, okay, and tell them to ask a lot of questions. So please, if these are also part of your coaching experience, in that you have to avail yourself when you delegate. So you can see it's quite different from what we thought delegation was, right? Just give the work and expect it to be done. There's a lot of back and forth that needs, just that you are not doing it yourself, but you are guiding. You're more like a guide or a mentor to the other person to do the work. And yes, I do agree. It sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like it's too much. But in the long run, trust you me, it is way better than just ensuring the work is done, because they will have learned processes over time. They will have learned how to think like you, or to think like what the role demands of them in that company. So ensure to be open and to communicate as much as possible when we are coaching our employees, our juniors. Now, the reason I also say this is that some genius on Google said that the manager who remains the permanent checkpoint is not maintaining standards. Okay, they are simply preventing development of standards in the people below them. And this is stressing the same point. If every task is going to come to you to be checked, to be signed off, to be assessed, to be reviewed, that means you are the quality control manager. That means we are not allowing people to develop that assessment capability, that review capability in their own minds. And so when that happens, you remain overly tasked, okay? Because someone will just do a half done job and say, I did it, you do the rest, okay? Or I'm done with this. And so there's a lot of back and forth in reviewing and editing those versions of those tasks that you have given them. So what do you do then? What is the way forward? Use effective feedback. Okay, now I have dropped we have dropped some links in the chat box for you to look at. You can access them now, or we're going to look through one of those right now. And the core focus of this is how to give good feedback. Now, feedback is divided into 4 levels, and every level targets behavior differently. Self-level feedback, or the top one, is the one that is most commonly used. And what does that do? We're either praising people for the work they've done or criticizing them. Okay, we tell them, you're good at this, you're a natural, you're a pro, I can rely on you, what would I do without you? But that statement does not give them information about themselves, right? I mean, it does not give them information about the task. You're just being told that you're good at it or you're bad at it, that you can be relied on or you cannot be relied on, right? But what about the task? What about the task that was given to you? You have not given any information on the task itself, right? So this is the most detrimental level of feedback. How many of you have tried? I'm not judging. I have done that myself. How many of you have praised or criticized the person instead of the task? My hand is up. I'm not judging. This is a judgment-free zone. Am I the only one? Okay. Okay, we have a few hands up. All right. So self-level feedback is very detrimental. Here we go. Next is task level feedback. Now that we know that we should focus on the task and not on the person, what do we give in task level feedback? This is commentary on our outputs. This was done well, this wasn't done well, this needed to be fixed, this is how it should be done, the formatting of this was wrong, try this time, the timing was too long, those things that revolve the task itself, that is task level feedback. But what does that do? It just tells you what's right and what's wrong. It does not give you information on how to think about it, because if I knew what the right formatting should have been, there should have been some sort of decision making in me, some sort of processing in me of how I should have done that task, right? There should have been some sort of process I would have followed to come up with that deliverable, that task. So that is what task level misses. Now, when you go to process level, this is all about how I arrived at the decision to make those choices. How did I decide to put slide 4 as the summary, and I left slide 1 as maybe the key figures? What was the process that I thought of? Okay, why is it that my first slide has this and my second slide has this and my fourth slide has this? What was the process I was thinking of? So understanding that process is where process level feedback comes to targeting your thinking, your planning, your decision making that produced it. So when we talk to people, we try and engage them in questions to ask us, what was your thought process? Where, how did you think about this? And how should you have thought about this? Lastly, self-regulation feedback looks at building self-evaluation capacity. So before they come to you, you tell them, now if you had 90 seconds or 90 seconds to pitch this presentation to the higher leaders, do you think what you have written would have made sense to them? That person is going to go back to the drawing board and see what they have missed, what they have refused to highlight, how heavy their content is for it to be understood in 90 seconds. Have you seen that they have already understood how to evaluate themselves just with that one question? So that is where self-evaluation capacity comes in. Now, I want us to look at that on a deeper level. Allow me to maneuver my slides here. Yeah. I don't know if you can see this. No, I don't think you can. Bear with me. Let me show you what I want to show you. So window diagnostics. Okay. Can we all see this document? Okay. So now this document is what our feedback is all about. Why is it not moving? Oh, there we go. So this document is the feedback that I am talking about. Be at liberty to look at this later in depth. I just want us to explain slightly to look at each of these levels in more exemplar form so that we can understand where coaching in delegation comes in, okay? When you're looking at our number 4 level, which was self-level feedback, the one of praise and criticism, what does "you are unnatural at this" cause? What does it cause in the psychology of the person? There's no information that's being given about the task or how to do it again. So it's just I'm good or I'm bad. The problem with this is that the next time you're given a task, they will choose tasks that are not too challenging to prove that they are good at it. And that develops a fixed mindset in people. The problem with the fixed mindset is that you can never grow. You can never be resilient. You can never take tasks that are harder or more challenging, and you just stay stuck where you are to prove to yourself that you are good at something. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So telling someone that they're an expert at something or they're a natural at something is putting a cap on their abilities, so they know that they can't do better than that. This is who they are, and they will always choose tasks that are below that to reinforce that idea. So that is something that's detrimental. I know I can always count on you. It reinforces the identity. Okay, you've worked so hard on this. As much as that's something like a compliment, but you're rewarding the effort without examining whether the strategy worked or not. Is that strategy applicable to other situations? No. So these are questions we have to ask. What strategy did you use? Can it be used in another situation? You are trying to make them think beyond what they have done. Okay. All right. So let's move to level 3. Now, level 3 is task level. Okay. And the situation here being given is the report was missing a certain section. Okay. So instead of saying this was incomplete or this isn't complete, a stronger or a better level feedback is that the cost benefit analysis is missing and it needs to be added before it goes to the board. Okay. So don't give vague feedback. That's a very good way of telling them what's missing, what needs to be added, what needs to be changed, shifted, edited, all those things that are concerning deliverables. Now, the good thing with task level feedback is that it emphasizes on what needs to be there. So the standards, the quality, the standards that are needed to be portrayed in your company, whether it's through documentation, through presentation, through interaction, all those things are kept in mind. So if you're talking to beginners in your company, start with task level feedback. Okay, tell them what's missing, what needs to be added, why it needs to be added, so that they can know what quality looks like in your company. Okay. Okay, let's go to level 2, a deeper level. We're looking at process level feedback. Now, in that scenario where the section was missing in the report, instead of just saying add the cost benefit analysis, try and make them think of what they should do to make sure that nothing is missing, because the problem here is that something was missing. So what is the process they should go through? What is the checklist they should go through to make sure that everything is there in that specific document? This way, next time, they will not just focus on the cost benefit analysis, they will make sure that every other section is fed into the document. Process level feedback. What are the checklists that need to be done? What are the sequences that need to be done? You will go through this with your time. Please make out some time to really go through this and then see in all different scenarios where it comes up. Name the strategy. Okay, don't just point out the error, and make your own thinking visible. You as the manager, if you were the one doing it, how is it that you would have thought through it? What are the key things that you would have thought of when you were doing this process? You are transferring that capability to your mentee, uh, to the person that you have delegated to. So please endeavor to try and transfer that capability by installing process level thinking. Okay. And then we have the deepest of the deepest levels, self-regulation feedback. For people that are fairly good at what they do, for people who are experts, this is a very good way of um, ensuring that they have ingrained the process, they have ingrained exactly what needs to be done. They think like the organization themselves. Okay, so the context of that submission of the document. So before reviewing a submission, say, before I look at this, you run through it. Okay, and does it meet all the criterion that we talked about? All the assignment, that when I was giving you the assignment, there was criteria. Go back and see, is there anything that you are uncertain about? Okay, if you had more time, how would you have made this better? If you yourself were the stakeholder who you were presenting to, would this make sense to you? Would you buy in? What are the weak areas of that document? Those kind of thought-provoking questions that makes the person assess himself holistically from all different perspectives, from the perspective of the manager, from the perspective of the other stakeholders, from the clients, from your senior leaders. They have to think holistically. So self-regulation feedback allows those questions to develop self-assessment. And so over time, what happens is that you end up thinking like the company. You end up thinking in terms of exactly what's required in the role. And these are all other examples. Don't just tell them what's wrong, by the way. You have to ask before telling. Understand their thought process. Understand how they think about that problem, how they thought about that solution. And then that makes it easy for you to understand where their thoughts are coming from, what's the break in their thought process, and then how you can help them see it from a different perspective. Okay, so that's about the 4 levels of feedback. And then here we have a little bit of a scenario of which feedback to use when. If you have a person who knows what the problem is, you can use who doesn't know what the problem is, you can use task level feedback because you want them to know what the issue is to start with, what are the standards that are needed. And then if you have is the output broadly correct but produced in a flawed way? Okay, so if everything is correct, but the only way that the thing is being affected is that the process was wrong or the sequencing is wrong, that means that's a process level problem. So you bring out process level feedback. So these are some of the ways that we can create feedback that is deeper than you are good and you are bad. So I have a bit of a scenario. So this is something like a test that we can do just to jog our brains to see if we have been listening, and then we can open the room for questions and answers and we'll be done. Okay, so we have a scenario here, something that could be typical of a company, okay? And the people involved here are Alan, who is a senior analyst, and Joanna, who is his manager, okay? Now, Meridian Consulting is a mid-sized strategy consulting company. And the team works on client engagements ranging from operational reviews to market entry strategy. Now, Alan is a senior analyst here for 2 years in the firm who has recently been given more autonomous responsibility for client deliverables. Okay, so you can see he's fairly on an experienced level. Okay, now Joanna calls Alan and says, "I'm giving you your first ever draft to do yourself, okay, for a client." So this is a presentation that uh, Alan has to make in 3 weeks, and it's something that he's doing for the first time on his own. He has been supporting before, but he has never really taken the lead on it, okay? And then she had clear instructions for him. Joanna says that the deck should summarize operational review findings for the manufacturing client, be ready for review by Friday. The pitch is going to be given to senior level leadership. It should be clear, evidence led, and no longer than 12 slides. So pretty basic scenario, okay? Alan gave the thing on time. He submitted it on time. The review was done. And then she thought that Alan did a good job. There was a lot of analysis. He did well on that. But there were some structural problems that might create problems when the client is looking at that presentation. So these are what the errors are, okay? Specifically, the summary slide is burying the fourth slide, which should be starting. What the slide that he should have been starting with has been buried by a summary, okay? Several slides are data heavy, there's too much information happening there, and there's no clear so what, like what should I do next with that information? So it's just a lot of data. Then the deck runs 17 slides instead of 12 slides, and there's a bit of issue in the narrative. So when you are presented to the first time, you don't get it properly. Now, Alan is capable and motivated, okay, and he also relatively is new to owning client deliverables, okay. And Joanna has 20 minutes on Monday before revising. Now, if you were Joanna, considering this scenario, in terms of task level, in terms of process level, or in terms of self-assessment level, I want us to brainstorm on how we would give Alan feedback. Is there anyone that would take Joanna's role right now? How would I ask Alan to improve? Have I left people sleeping? If you were Joanna, what would you tell Alan to do? Let's start with the slides. The slide seems many, right? More than 12. Anybody? Someone has said, first I would acknowledge the good work done before getting into criticism. Okay. First appreciate the effort and then the task. And this is task 1. Yeah, okay. So Shamim says that appreciate the effort first and then tell them that you were supposed to do 12 slides instead of 13, so they should cut back. So is that task level or process level? As you write, tell me whether it's task level or process level. Would anybody like to unmute and talk? Did we get a clear understanding of the levels of feedback? Maybe we can go back to that. Because in a training, we have to make sure that we have learnt that it has landed. So has it landed? Gen Z language. Has it landed? Yes. Okay, so it has landed. So if it has landed, then how can we translate that now into? Yes, correct. Philemon says that that is task level since it focuses on the output. Yeah. Now, if I were to create a process level feedback for Alan to think of the process of arranging those slides, how would we tell him to think about the process of arranging those slides? Why is it important for maybe the headline to be at the front and the executive summary to be at the back? Because that was a significant problem that Joanne had. The executive summary slide buries the headline finding on slide 4. Why is it important? Hey. Okay. I think in the interest of time, I will let you wrestle with this challenge, or you can also apply it to your issues that you have at work and see how feedback would apply differently. Yes. Shamim says the SMT do not have the time and one needs to pitch the most in the least time possible. Correct. So that is allowing them to understand the why of the slides moving, the slides to be rearranged in a different way, outlines the content of the whole work in the slides. Correct. Okay, so thank you for engaging. And lastly, if you have any questions, I would like to take your questions. But before I take your questions, I have a self-assessment for you. It's also a link that is shared. It's written Haiti FB assessment, feedback assessment, and you can fill in that form and assess yourself on where you fall in terms of these 4 levels and what you should improve on. This is something that you can help in developing yourself as a coach, as someone that wants to better yourself in giving feedback and developing capacity in your companies. So over to you, Christian. I'm open to taking questions. You know, they say one of two things in trainings or in classrooms. Either when there is silence, either we have learnt everything or we have learnt nothing at all. And given it's lunch hour, I really hope it's not the second one. Dennis has a question. Yes, Dennis? Duke has a question.
Yes, thank you. So, as far as the delegation and coaching is concerned, yeah, in some situations, you find that someone is an expert, but this person gives you a big no, says, I'm overwhelmed, I don't have time for your work. So, as a manager, how do you take that? Then the second question, then you give responsibility to juniors. So then there's repeated mistakes. So at what time do you switch? Because now you need accurate time. You need accurate information. You need, let's say, you need organized information in a short time, so that also it can be presented, because time is money also. So at what time do you switch? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for those questions, and I think those are really important to address. If someone is making consistent mistakes, it's not that they don't understand what is missing. I think the issue is that they don't understand, they're missing things in their sequence. You understand? So there is a process that is missing. It depends now on the scenario. Also, these things are very contextual, right? If they know what needs to be done and yet still they are doing the wrong thing, that means that their process is broken. Okay, that is why errors are occurring. It's not that they don't know what they're supposed to do, the process is broken. So try and move to process level feedback. Okay, identify the faulty strategy, ask them, but we have to ask them again in an open way so that they can open up. Remember, these things are about trusting each other. Okay, so ask them what their thought process was when they were doing this. And once you do that, you will start to identify what the gaps were in their thinking, what led them up to those errors. And so once they take you through their process, you start to see, okay, now this is where the mistake was, this is what you failed to account for. You understand? So that is what we need to look at, and then follow up with, if it needs to be a guide or something, for them to understand that every time, the next time you do this, follow this process, follow these checklists, follow these specific things before the task is given. Your errors should reduce significantly. It's always to do with the thought process, because you would believe that someone that has worked with you for like 5-6 years knows what the output is supposed to be in the company, what quality looks like, what deliverables look like, what expectations look like. So the issue is that they're not getting a hold of the process, and they don't care much about it because we are not stressing much about it. We are only focused on the outputs. So look into process level feedback on that. And then being overwhelmed and being told no. I think also as managers, we can accept we can accept a no, but then also you want to understand where their overwhelm is coming from, because an expert, like I said, maybe you want to investigate whether they're being given low level work. Sometimes we can overwhelm them with even the smallest of things, and we leave the other people that are less competent to freeload on them. So you want to see in your group dynamics, in your team dynamics, whether this person is taking work that matches his level only, or harder challenges, or they are being given these kawaida things to do, and those kawaida things should be shifted now to other people, and so that this person has more time and more space for more challenging work. So that's one way to also look at that problem. Yes, Robert. Robert has a question.
Thank you very much. Are you getting me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I would like to get a clarification
Mm-hmm.
concerning maybe managers that may not be really giving the required feedback concerning the exact expectations of in a given role.
Mm.
Maybe an employee is inquiring to
Mm.
get the exact expectations of him or her in a given role, but is not getting that that clarity from the appointing authority. How do you go
Yeah.
about it?
Have you tried
Then
talking to
maybe
the
you
person?
can keep that in mind. Then the
Yeah.
second and last one,
Mm.
you just talked about those who feel challenged,
Mm.
that maybe they feel their role may be taken away.
Mm.
How do you convince them that by offering them a chance to mentor others,
Mm.
their role will still be in place, given that
Mm.
in some scenarios we've had cases where an individual is assigned a duty to coach another,
Mm.
only to end up being replaced by the mentee.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, that is such a real world problem that these presentations do not justify. And I think also that is one of the reasons that we decide not to delegate work. And that's a big problem, because even the way our systems, our hierarchies work is that we are we are promoted on the basis of the good work that we do or the expertise that we have, and then we want to continue to prove that so that we can go to the next level. Now, some of these things come down to organizational culture. Okay, what is the system of promotions? What is the system of career development in your company? And if that culture is where your juniors are eating your positions, then obviously you're in a fix, right? So you want to map out a way with your HR or your superiors, you yourself, into what the guarantee is to move up the ladder or what opportunities await you. Now, the thing with coaching, and I think that is where also a lot of us tend to prefer being managers instead of coaches, is that you are willing you are willing to develop others to be just as good as you. That also means that you have to develop to be better than who you are so that you are still relevant. So growth is a chain that passes like a stream. It's not just you developing your mentee, but you should also now be having access to other developmental platforms, to other coaching platforms. So the same way that you are expected to coach others is the same way that you would expect to be coached by your superiors. So it comes down to a cultural thing. And if you feel like you don't have access to that yet, you are still giving yourself, then you want to look at outside of your company, outside of what growth opportunities your company offers you, what um, developmental opportunities do you have? For example, attending this every Wednesday is a big deal because you're learning so much that you probably would have brushed off or not been aware of in your roles, right? So all these things still make a difference. So you have to keep in mind that as much as you are nurturing another person, you yourself need to be nurtured so that you can survive in this jungle of corporate life. So that's one. And then managers not giving exact expectations boils down to communication. The first step is to communicate that to your manager. And if they're not outright giving you like things, then you ask those questions. Say, what time do I need to give it by? What is expected of me? Ask those questions so they know, "Oh, this person is giving so many questions. Let me just give them a full sheet of what needs to be done." So if effort does not come from one side, if you're hungry enough, you have to put the effort yourself. Goes two ways, even with giving feedback. If they don't come to you, go to them, because the work is going to be spoiled later on when you go to 75% completion. So you'd rather go at 25%. I hope that answers your question, Robert. Grace has a question.
Yes, sure. So thank you for this wonderful session. I'm really learning a lot. So my question is, based on the task feedback, how can you hold an employee accountable without demotivating them? Now that the task is involved, they've not met your expectation, you clearly communicated to them what you expected, what your expectations and everything, but at the end, they did not perform as they did not give the outcome that you anticipated. So you as a HR manager who is mentoring this employee, how can you give a feedback to hold them accountable without demotivating them? Thank you.
Okay, another very relevant question. Two things to keep in mind. The first is that when you give someone something to do, they are not going to do it fully the way you would have done it. Why? Because of individual differences. Okay, the grammar might be incorrect, the approach might be different. These are individual differences that we account for in people, and we appreciate them as diversity. So number one, when you are giving out work that needs to be delegated to someone or that needs to be done, uh, go with the mindset that it is you are going to have a little bit of difference from what you would have done yourself. So that's number one. And that should also reduce your expectations a little bit to accommodate for the fact that it is not your clone that is doing your work. It is a completely different human being from a different culture, from a different background, from a different educational background, and a different cognitive understanding, even a different IQ level, who is doing your task. So if you are expecting really, really similar results from what you would do based on the fact that that is what is required, then you would go for someone that is an expert at that. Okay, but if it's something that not an expert could do and somebody else has to do, then you have to leave room for those individual differences. That's the truth about our life and diversity as people. Please remind me of your second question.
So my question was, how would you now hold this employee accountable without demotivating them, now that they've not
Okay.
performed how you are expecting?
Yeah. Focus on the task. Focus on the work, not the person. When we focus on the work and say, this, I appreciate that we have done this, always provide positive feedback as well. Don't just give them what's wrong with their presentation. They need to feel, any person needs to feel like they have done something of value. So tell them, I like the fact that you have grasped ABCD, but we have room for improvement. Never make it feel like it is an insufficiency in their ability. From the moment that you make it feel like it's an insufficiency in their ability, they will take it as criticism because they become defensive. So say, whatever feedback I'm doing is on the task and not on your efforts. So what needs to be changed? Okay, it's task centric. What needs to be changed? What needs to be done? How were you thinking about it? How can we change this process? It has to be conversational. When you bring the other person into the conversation instead of pushing feedback down their throat, it makes it light, it makes it lively, and it makes it easy for them to accept it because they feel like they can trust you. They can open up to you. So make it conversational, make it about the task. Find at least one thing that was good about, even if it was just the fact that they delivered it timely. Say, I like the fact that you are punctual, but this and this is how we can improve things. And I'm giving you this feedback so that you can develop, right? We are giving you this feedback to develop your skills. What is it in for them? I hope that answers your question. Okay, Winnie, does Winnie have a question? I see a hand up. I think maybe we can take this last question.
Mine is not a question per se, but I'd love, there's a question that a colleague asked in regards to a manager who has no clarity. And I realize this is where we normally have issues as HR professionals or even the managers around. We throw our team members under the bus. Reason being, a manager does not have clarity, then they put the blame on the junior staff. So I tend to believe it is a managerial issue or the supervisor's issue that we as the HRs or the professionals around here, we need to hold our managers into account than pressurizing the junior staff on things that a manager need to handle. Because for instance, if a manager brings to me an issue like, for instance, let me say attendance or failed KPIs, I have to reprimand you first as the manager. What was your role in ensuring that this stuff has been mentored? Yeah. Either you want a person, a yes person, or at times you find managers don't want people who challenge them. Maybe if a junior staff questions the supervisor, there's a way they're labeled. So in my submission in regards to this, let a manager be held accountable. Because if a junior staff cannot explain their role well, then we as the managers, we have failed in one way or another.
Thank you for shedding light on that, Winnie. I think that's also important, and it comes down to organizational culture as well. But also the fact that we ourselves should be accountable. So thank you for shedding light on that. Thank you also to everyone that has stayed here till 12:30. I hope this was an insightful training for you. Please make sure you check out the assessment and use this tool to improve your feedback. And I wish you all a lovely week. Over to you, Christian.